Hey guys, what's up? I got everybody here from TMI. Don't forget to write us an email at tmipodcast2018. That's tmipodcast2018 at gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Also, check us out on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. Just use the numbers, don't spell it out.
Ooh, don't forget Facebook.com/TMI podcast 2018.
Follow us on the Apple Podcast app. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review.
All you YouTubers out there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, TMI Podcast 2018. Look for the popcorn bucket.
That's right. Also, check us out on Spotify and a Google Play Music app for all you Android users. Follow us and subscribe everywhere. We appreciate it. We're doing it for you guys, the fans. Thank you.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Dave Odinson Warhowski, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, Mike Mjolnir Evans, and Danielle, that's what she said, Warhowski. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
So, do you guys smell that?
I do.
Smells like it's time to move on to our classic feature.
Buttery goodness.
Extra butter, please.
Jeff, take this one away. This was your classic
Okay,
feature.
so this was right. So last week we were talking Infinity Wars, the culmination. This is the pinnacle of superhero movies. It is a spectacle and unlike anything we've ever seen on screen, except for Avengers and Civil War and all those. But go back to the original 1978 Superman. We're a year out after Star Wars came. This movie, their tagline was, "You will believe a man can fly." But I now have issues with that because he's an alien. He's not a human. But anyways, I don't know. I watched it. Did you?
Early confessional.
I watched
Dave
it.
and I didn't.
I've seen it many, many times. Jim and I, as soon as we started watching it, we're like, wait a minute. There's like multiple versions of this, just like Close Encounters, because it's been reissued. I guess they film stuff that gets cut for the theatrical, it gets put back in when it was on regular commercial television. So I don't know.
So how long was your version, Jeff?
154 minutes. It was long. I do not remember it being that long. And it takes a fair amount of time before he actually becomes
Yes. And that was actually the same version that I saw. Mine was 154 as well. And I looked into it, and that was the extended cut, which was created in the year 2000, which took some of the TV scenes and it integrated them back in at Richard Donner's, request.
So now I'm curious.
I think the biggest version is 188 minutes. That's the full TV version.
Now is that so? I don't want to. I mean, we can go through this movie because I've seen it a couple times. Watching it again and to kind of like taking notes. But he filmed 1 and 2 back to back.
Yes, and was fired before.
He lost the rights to edit or cut down He didn't get director credit But they took it from the studio. Took it from him. And there's a version, which I have on disc, which is Richard Donner's Superman 2. And the whole end of that movie is basically what they used in the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this movie was supposed to end.
The backstory was just fascinating to me because I watched some of the bonus features. So basically, Richard Donner, the director, had an argument with the producers. They were disagreeing on everything, money, story, anything you could think of. So, and they were filming the two movies simultaneously, just like you hear Lord of the Rings was filmed, Infinity War.
That's pretty big for a movie in the 70s.
Yeah, I know. And a movie that wasn't a sequel, that didn't have any, cachet yet.
Right.
Box office cachet. So So because they were having all the issues between the director and the producer decided to pull the plug on the sequel at the point where they had already made 75% of the sequel, and concentrate on the first movie, finishing that. And so that's what they did. And they figured if it was a hit, then they would finish the sequel. And if it wasn't, then they would just
abandon it. Wow.
So I guess the problems between the director and the producers were such that they didn't invite him back to finish the sequel once Superman was a hit. And they brought in a second director to finish Superman 2. So that's basically what happened.
That's interesting because, I mean, obviously you can see the very first scene on Krypton, was they were setting up the sequel with the Phantom Zone and Zod. And you could tell they were bad guys because they wore black, but all the good guys wore like white aluminum foil. So yeah, visually it was pretty.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, like revisiting Superman.
Let's go.
Because of course, as a kid watching this, it just totally blew me away. Did this, and I remember I have vivid memories of going to see this in one of the few theaters at the time that was still a standalone theater with a huge screen, and they actually had in the lobby. They were selling Superman posters, Superman T-shirts, and a box of kryptonite rocks that were just rocks painted day glow.
Well, you were at the height of like the pet rock craze.
Yeah, and I actually still have them.
Do you?
Here somewhere. They're in my attic in a box. But
so you kept that, but lost all your Star Wars toys.
Yeah, so I begged for those Superman rocks, and I won. I got them. And loved the movie. Loved Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor.
Oh, he kills it. He absolutely chews the scenery.
Yeah. And just like Star Wars, I was completely blown away and mystified by the special effects at the time sold on me. I didn't care about the obvious blue screening or anything else.
Yeah.
And but watching it now, very long. I think even without the added scenes, it would have been very long. As you said, Jeff, it takes very long to get into the groove of Superman, of even Christopher Reeve entering into the story.
Yeah, correct. Which I enjoyed the whole setup. Right off with Jor-El's spit curl, I said, "Oh, look at that! That's I guess he copies his dad's hair." And obviously Jor-El, the first thing he said, he's fighting with the council. That we're gonna die. That this planet is gonna blow up, and I'm like, this guy's like the original Al Gore. Like he's like, and nobody listens to him, right? It's like, look out your window. That star's getting bigger by the minute, and he waits till the exact last second to throw that baby into a spaceship and send him on his way.
But the funny thing is he's totally aware of what will happen to him on Earth. Like, you will be invulnerable because of your density. Like, why don't you go? Why doesn't everybody go to Earth?
You can't build a spaceship for three.
Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't everybody on Krypton want to go to Earth and become?
You're going to be a stranger. You're going to be alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you will be invulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he didn't wear pants.
Amazingly, they were considering Dustin Hoffman to play Lex Luthor. If
really?
I read that online, yeah.
For $4 million.
Interesting.
But can you picture him like anybody else yelling, "Miss Tazbaka"?
No.
Like Gene Hackman.
That would have been funny.
But they were also considering Nick Nolte and Patrick Wayne, John Wayne's son, I think, for the role of Superman.
I'm sure they went through a ton of people. I mean, Christopher Reeves was unknown, right? He'd never done anything before this. Yeah.
And the fact that he was just so congenial, innocent, that's he could, and virtuous. I think he completely sells it because the current incarnation of Superman, Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
They tried. DC obviously are trying to go the Dark Knight route and making him dark and
yeah. I walked out of the Man of Steel screening with my son and immediately found this movie and said, "This is what Superman should be." And the one thing, like you said, he's what's amazing to me is what Reeves does with this character, not Superman, but with Clark Kent, where he makes fact, he's 6'4", so he's a tall guy to begin with. He slunches over, he's bumbling fool, he's pushing his glasses up constantly, and it's unbelievable what he does. And there's that scene the first time where he meets Lois as Superman and then immediately flies around the back of the building, comes knocking on her door as Clark Kent. And she goes in, and he's already got the hots for her. And she goes into the bathroom, and he takes off his glasses, and he just kind of stands up, and he grows like 6 inches. And you said, Lois, I have something I need to tell you. And then immediately regrets it, and then slumps back over again, and becomes Clark Kent. And it's phenomenal acting that you kind of gets lost. But yeah, like you said, he kind of it takes a long time to get to him, because you got to get through his teenage years. And so when Dad drops over from a heart attack, you just ran through a cornfield faster than a train. You can't run him to the hospital.
Right. And the actor that played the teenage Clark, like, could they find somebody that looked less like Christopher Reeve? They had a wig on him throughout the movie.
Oh, did they?
They did?
Christopher Reeve actually dubbed over his voice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If Wikipedia is to be believed.
On the internet.
Christopher Reeve, because I thought, as I was watching it, this guy sounds like, at least he's sounding like Christopher Reeve, like he's doing an imitation. But no, that is actually Christopher Reeve dubbing.
Are you sure it wasn't Aaron from The Walking Dead?
Fake news.
No, it was not Aaron.
Oh, Jim, you made mention of the fact that Brando's notorious for taping dialogue to the back of people, all of his cue cards or whatever. And so I was just picturing when he was sitting there talking to the baby, that the baby actually had like a little, cue card taped to its chest as he's reading off the dialogue. And
I was impressed that he didn't have his girth yet, did Marlon at that point?
No, yeah.
Like, he went through most of the 70s as a svelte kind of guy.
Svelte.
Yeah.
Well, those aluminum outfits.
Yeah, helps bake off the weight.
That's like a microwave.
Right off, yeah.
Exactly. It's like he was oversizing.
Yeah, and Jeff, as we were talking about before, the original ending of Superman 2 was the ending of the original Superman, because the General Zod, and his two hench
Ursula
people.
And
what was the big guys? Nod,
maybe something.
So in order to make things right after Superman defeats them, or he turns the world back, so everything goes back to before.
I don't really think that's how it works, though. I don't think you could just reverse the Earth.
Right, and then it would. Yeah,
but it's interesting.
Just destroy the planet if he tried.
Right, correct. That he actually goes. His father tells him, "You're forbidden to interfere with human history," but just by sending him there, you are doing that. You're doing just that by sending him there to save people that maybe that guy should have died. Maybe he doesn't. She fell out of a plane. Oh, well, maybe that's the way it was supposed to be. Now you've interfered. So Dr. Strange saw that, and he's like, well, if Superman can do it, I can do it.
Right.
I'll just change history.
And there's a tie-in to one of our other classic films, Close Encounters. The producers, before they got Richard Donner, actually courted Steven Spielberg to direct this movie.
Really?
But he was too tied up with Close Encounters, and he declined. So so Superman was one of the the new age blockbusters of the 70s, following Star Wars, following Close Encounters, and this came out the year after those two did. And I'm
curious how much money it made.
Funny you should ask that, because I have that right here.
You do?
It cost $55 million to make, which was the most expensive movie up to that time.
But was that counting both, because they were filming those back to back?
You see, it doesn't specify whether that counts both or not, but I assume it did, because it took over a year to film this and 75% of the sequel. But then it ended up earning $300 million. So
money well spent.
It was extremely profitable, and it was a big hit, and reviewers were kind to it as well. And currently, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets a 94% positive.
It holds up. I mean, it does look dated. They don't try to dress up Metropolis. Like we got your Tim Burtons that trying to make Chicago look like Gotham. I mean, it's straight up New York.
Yeah,
you got the trade.
You've got the World Trade Center in the back. Yeah,
built like 2 years before. You got a Rex Reed cameo, for God's sake. So it's like.
So if I had to choose between any of the movie incarnations of Superman, it would be Christopher Reeve.
Absolutely,
definitely, yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I did like the fact that when we're introduced to Lois, she's typing away, and the first thing she does is ask the photographer Jimmy Olsen how to spell a word. It's like, so you're not very good at your job, and yet you somehow have a penthouse apartment. They must pay pretty well.
Yeah. Speaking of Lois, the main thing I have an issue with to this day is that completely hokey poem or whatever.
Oh, I hate it. Oh, can you read my mind?
Yeah. when I was a kid, this
Hokey.
this
That's
would
exactly
embarrass
what I
me when
do.
I was watching it with other people.
Hated it.
This would cause people to leave the room when I was a kid watching this. I'm like,
Well, that
really?
scene goes on way too long,
It's
anyways.
better.
Yeah, it goes on way too long. But then when she launches into that poem,
Who do they think was watching this that they would need that poetic interlude in here?
yeah. Can we backtrack a little bit? I want to talk about Miss Tessmacher because those Bazinga,
Tessmacher!
her chess piece. I mean, that rivaled Con Noonan Singh's. It's so in your face the first time you're introduced.
As
Valerie Perrine, that's right.
Who probably totally belongs in the 70s along with Beverly D'Angelo and then whoever else you could think of.
I will say that the Lex Luthor, his lair was the set piece. The set design is phenomenal. To take the underground abandoned train station and just the level of detail that they put into this with the old school antique. It's probably, you can just see, you probably see Otis like walking around the streets during garbage day and picking lamps up and bringing them back. And he's got a full pool going on in there, the library, the set. It's so much eye candy. It's just, it's a great, great set piece.
Right. Yeah. I personally, I prefer Superman 2, just because of the superpower on superpower action in there.
Yeah, you take everything up
and Superman 3 and Superman 4. I would like to forget that they both even existed. But these first two movies are a wonderful piece of 70s cinema, and it's an integral part of my childhood, along with Star Wars and Jaws, King Kong.
I remember the trading cards. I had all the trading cards. I never saw this in the theater. I saw it. I'm sure it was probably HBO.
I did see it in the theater just because I have that specific memory of getting the kryptonite rocks. But
nice.
It was,
the whole Lex Luthor acquiring this is such a leap of faith. That he makes this gigantic jump that, he mentions he's from Krypton. We've never referred to Krypton. We don't know what Krypton is as humans. And yet he figures out where in the quadrant in the universe it is based on the trajectory of the spaceship that he must have come from, that there's got to be pieces of this thing laying on Earth and they're somehow going to have an ill effect on him. And then finds one and uses it. And I'm just like, it's like John Hammond. He spared no expense.
Right. Right.
It just, I guess as a kid, you just kind of go with it. But no, to me, that was just like ridiculous.
But thumbs up to Superman.
That's right.
Yes.
Here.
And his many wig changes. That was awesome. Yes. I don't think I realized how many times, every time you saw Lex Luthor, he had a different wig on.
Now, is it that special time of the week?
Confessional? Wait, I want to wait. Not yet. One more thing. There was 2 cameos in this. Did you catch at the end when they go to try and revert? Jesus, cut that out. When they're going to reprogram the missile, the major, the army major.
Tell us.
It was Larry Hagman.
Was?
It was Larry Hagman, and I'm guessing he was a major. So was it Major Nelson? Was he actually playing the character from I Dream of Jeannie?
I did not catch that at all.
It's Larry Hagman. And that was probably 78. So that's got to be pre-Dallas.
So, well, who's the second?
John Ratzenberger.
John Ratzenberger.
He's everywhere.
He's
a throwaway character at the end too. He's like in the missile command. When they're tracking the missile going across, and he just and I
must have blinked during those 2 scenes.
So there you go. I thought you would have catched the Larry Hagman. And so go back to the ending, which is spoiler, Lois dies.
Aww.
So he goes back in time in a fit of rage and he flies and he reverses time to save her. But he only goes back far enough to save her. He doesn't go back another 3 minutes and stop the second missile from friggin' landing. Somebody had to have died from that, right?
Yes.
He's so selfish that he just saves Lois. I don't know. I had an issue with that.
She must have been a special gal.
She was special, all right.
It was crickets from our end. Dave and I didn't watch it, but it did make me think that we need a Spark Notes for movies.
That's for next time, I guess.
Yes. You guys need to commit. We
like,
need your input. You are the
the younger
new generation moviegoers that you have to.
I was curious. I did want your take on this because it is dated.
I pulled it up on the Apple TV and it said 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I was like,
That
hell
is
no! I was like, not doing it.
Well, it was either that or the 10 hours Jim was suggesting to go watch Lost in Space.
Oh God!
Well, you have 48 hours to watch it on Amazon if you want.
Oh, you rented it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we are currently already logged into your account. So.
What is that account number?
All right, let's move on to the confessional question here. We are running out of time.
All right.
All right. This is a Star Wars
Confessionals
related, right?
It is Star Wars related. So let's get into it here.
Confessionals.
Well, since we haven't heard from you in 20 minutes, let's start with Dave and Mike.
The confessional question for this week is, who is your favorite secondary Star Wars character? Now Han, Luke, and Leia are all out. Obviously, that's, 3 very important characters. So who is your second favorite character? Everybody else is free game, Danielle. So let's start with you.
This is difficult because I don't know the secondary characters as well.
You can't say Meg.
As I would in the Star Wars, as I would in the Marvel universe, but I do relate well with Chewbacca. I do love him.
Relate?
Yeah.
How do you relate to him?
We're both
Bad hair
We're
day.
both hairy.
Okay. It's the Greek side of things. Is that your answer?
Yeah, I was tossing up between him and Jabba the Hutt of who I relate more with because I do love to eat.
We did see Jabba eat a frog live, so.
Yeah, but I'd have to go with Chewie. He's my main man. I got a picture with him from Comic-Con. I cropped Mike and Dave out of it.
There you go.
Mine, always growing up and always every time I saw the movies, growing up as a kid and everything like that, I really enjoyed C-3PO. I just, he was the one that was like, always trying to talk sense, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like, always trying to take like the right way to doing things and everything like that. And I don't know if that was like a good inspiration as a child, maybe. I like to look at the world that way in a positive manner,
Yeah. And always those little side kicks he used to give to R2D2 or else.
Oh, it was an abusive relationship there. R2 should have dumped him years ago.
Didn't they hate each other in real life?
R2 and 3PO?
Yeah, like the actors.
Oh, I don't know about the actors. We have one, Kenny Baker has passed away. And I've met Anthony Daniels. I've heard different. Sometimes you can have a pleasant experience with him. Other times, not so. I'm not going to spread rumors one way or the other because I don't know the man personally. But
exactly.
He would not. I have a picture. It's a promotional picture, black and white, of the entire cast out of costume, and I have it signed by everybody except for Harrison Ford. But Anthony Daniels was sick that day, so he's not in it. But when I brought it to him, I thought it'd be really cool if he drew a little 3PO in the corner and then signed it. And he says, "I'm not doing that."
No.
He said,
"Yeah, no."
He wouldn't do it. James Earl Jones would have done it. James Earl Jones would have taken the shirt off his back, signed it for me.
Exactly. All right, Jeff. What's yours? No,
I'm
actually,
go last.
you know what?
I'm
Yes.
going last.
Yes.
Last.
Yeah. Let's save Jeff for last. This was Star Wars, obviously big for him.
Mikey.
So go ahead, Mike.
Mike.
Mine is the same as Danielle's. It's got to be Chewie. And this is why I have a 8x10 lobby card of him hanging on my wall. And for me, he's not even a secondary character.
No, I agree.
It's all the Star Wars movies revolve around Chewie in my mind. So he's the main actor, and he's surrounded by these droids and these other actors as well.
It's Chewie's story.
Yeah, that's Chewie. So
You must be really excited for Solo.
Yes, I am. So absolutely my favorite.
Okay, I guess it's me.
Go for it.
Next. If you had asked me this question when I was 12, undoubtedly would have said Boba Fett. I even wrote a fan fiction story about how Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit But
You're hired. You're making the next movie, by the way.
but it was so. But looking back on it, he was so easily dispatched in Jedi, and eaten by the living vagina that is.
Oh, that was Meg. That was. Oh shit! I gave it away.
So he kind of, his cachet has gone down over the years with me. I used to love Bosk as well, but he had such a small little role. But so if you were to ask me this today, General Hux.
I was
yeah.
still going Lobot.
Yeah, love General Hux. From the General Hugs joke that he gets at the beginning of The Last Jedi with Poe. He's just so
Still holding.
mealy mouthed and whiny, and I just think he's very funny.
That's
so
awesome.
I'd have to say Hux.
Yeah, you got a new character in there, huh? Okay, all right,
Yeah.
It's my turn. It's a little unconventional, but it's actually, I kind of gave it away a little bit earlier when you asked me about my toy. My favorite secondary character is the Millennium Falcon. You can't tell me that this is not a straight established character. Millennium Falcon, Star Wars would not be Star Wars without the Millennium Falcon. It is an iconic ship. It is. I love the design. I have numerous little Millennium Falcons all over my desk. I'm absolutely fascinated with this as a ship, as a character. And so I mentioned it earlier as well, which is we now have Solo coming out. And as you see in the promos, the ship is slightly different. So there's a little story going on here about, why it looks the way it does now in the, the current movies, as opposed to, going back when Lando owned it. And on our Facebook page, there is a video of Donald Glover, who plays Lando, and he gives you a tour of the ship. And it is a straight out pimp mobile. He's got a bar. He's got a jacuzzi. He has a whole cloakroom of capes. And I'm absolutely appalled that this is what they've done with the Millennium Falcon. It's like being in love for 40 years. And then one day you find like an old photo of your girlfriend, and she's a straight up street hooker. And I'm just like, it's not, they've absolutely, I don't want to see this movie now, because if that's what they're doing with the ship, then I don't know. I have some serious issues, but the Millennium Falcon is it for me. Unconventional as it may be.
Yes, you'll get no argument here.
So what are you going to say when we come up with your favorite Star Wars vehicle?
That would be Slave Leia's outfit. I don't know. If it takes us that long to get to that question, then we should probably just hang this up, because that's not really a confessional.
All right. Well, there you have it.
So that's it. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Another episode in the
Mike,
books here.
You've got the choice for next week of our
yes.
homework assignment for our classic feature.
And I have nothing right now on my mind. So
Except the hat.
Does anyone want to share any ideas around that? I was trying to think like recent sci-fi that we could get into, but nothing came to mind.
Recent.
I've never seen the Alien movies.
We could start
right
there.
up Jim's alley.
Oh yeah.
The only reference to Alien I know is from Spaceballs. No, Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. and what a great reference it is.
Yeah. And now Avengers.
So what do you guys think about Alien then?
I can watch that.
I'll watch it.
That's your favorite, one of your favorites, Jim, right?
The original, the first one?
Yeah, I'll watch it and speak at length.
So there's our topic.
There you go. All right.
So we'll talk about that next week.
Mike, can I borrow your copy of Alien?
Of course you can.
Jim doesn't even have to go to the library for this one, because I'm sure.
No.
Oh, I do have a
multiple
library
versions of it.
card now. I could start there.
Although I don't own it on Blu-ray, I may have to have this as an excuse to go buy it.
There you go.
So we'll talk about Alien next week.
And if anybody wants to watch and play along, so be it. That'd be fun.
Exactly. And I believe we'll also be talking about Saturday cartoons. People growing up watching Saturday cartoons.
Yes.
And
Getting early sugar brush with their cereal.
And also, what was your favorite TV show / movie toy that you had growing up as a kid?
I just blew that one. Because
Well, okay. Everybody knows Jeff's now, but no.
I can easily come up with a secondary question.
Come up with a secondary. So
I
next
got numerous.
will kind of be like childhood. Even all these episodes are kind of childhood
Well,
oriented.
so I mean, David and Danielle, like you just caught the tail end of that whole Saturday morning cartoon thing because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
it does not exist like it used to.
I didn't really.
No,
have
but that's
one.
because we didn't have Boomerang, we didn't have Cartoon Network, we didn't have,
It wasn't even that.
Chan.
I mean, like, never mind. I'll save it for next week. I was not a Nickelodeon kid. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, I was through.
So
and through.
we'll save that for next week. And everything.
Those of us that could afford cable.
I didn't have cable.
There you go.
Exactly. And that's why that's probably why I didn't grow up watching Nickelodeon.
But we lived and breathed getting up Saturday morning and watching those cartoons between 7 and 12, and once 12 o'clock rolled around.
It was between 6 and 12 for me, actually.
6?
Yes.
Wow.
I used to. I'll save it. I'm sorry. I won't even get into it now. Anyways.
Yeah, because we could just go. We could just do this
it was
next
like,
episode now.
It was like Schoolhouse Rock, you know?
Uh-huh.
You remember Schoolhouse Rock? And like, oh yeah, I remember all that. Anyways. Okay. So I think that's it, guys.
That's it. I'm good.
I think that's all we got for us. So.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
Okay. Mike's out. We'll see you guys next week.